Good afternoon, everyone. So we are now starting the afternoon session of the colloquium. And this is a new session that we have. It's called the Retirement Sandbox. It's a project between the University of New South Wales and the superannuation industry to look at the opportunities for young people to solve some of the hardest problems that we have in superannuation. So this particular session is going to be led by Dr. Kevin Liu, who's a senior lecturer in the School of Risk and Actuarial Studies and an education superstar at the University of New South Wales. And he will be joined by Dr. Shang, who's in the investment strategy team at Aware Super, and Dr. David Bell, who's Executive Director of the Conexus Institute. So I'll pass the floor to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Hazel, for the nice introduction. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And I think, as Hazel mentioned, our presentation today is a little bit different from other research presentations. What we'd like to share with you today is a story about an initiative that we started at UNSW Business School that tried to bring academics, industries, as well as students together to co-create solutions to many of the challenges we're facing today, including the challenges in the pension and retirement space, which is why we're here today. I guess the story started really 11 years ago when I was still a young researcher working at APRA while completing my PhD. So in 2010, I attended the 18th Superannuation Colloquium, and which is still that's the name we call it at the time. And I included a program here, as you can see here. Back then, we only have 20 papers presented, no parallel sessions, and today we have parallel sessions, 60 different papers. It's interesting. If you look at the program, all the issues we discussed back then, we'll probably identify there are many challenges we discussed 10 years ago are still the same challenges we try to address today, including post-retirement product design, financial literacy, longevity risk, behavior issues that prevent people from making optimal retirement decisions, the policy implications, regulation, performance of superannuation funds, etc. So there are many issues where we discussed back then. They're still the same thing that we look at today. And of course, we have many new challenges we're facing every day as a result of the social, economic, and policy landscape changes. So now we have issues like how we better design post-retirement product, the aged care, and many other things. I think that's what I learned in my journey in the last 10 years or so. One of the challenges we identified is, although we have these annual gatherings, we get academics, policymakers, industry practitioners join together, we put a massive amount of work to try to address all those ongoing issues. One of the missing piece here I identified, because we're teaching students at the university about retirement and pension as well, is often young people as a key stakeholders are typically not included or not engaged in developing solutions to those most pressing challenges that they're going to face tomorrow. So I guess the question for us is how to inspire young people to be part of this process, to own the problem, to unleash their creativity and innovation, to come up with actionable ideas that industry can use. And that's motivated us to use a particular program or initiative that initiated at UNSW Business School we call the Sandbox education model. The Sandbox education model, really, that idea, Sandbox, is started from computer programming. That before you actually roll out your software development in the real world, you try to create this little sandbox. You can test it in a safe place. And that's the same idea we try to do here. We try to incorporate, bring real industry challenges into the classroom, create this safe place for students to try and learn and co-create solutions alongside with industry practitioners, and they can design solutions to real world challenges and problems. So, and why we want to do that? I think when we examine these needs of the three-party kind of relationship, the industry partners, students, and academics, we see opportunities. First, we see from industry's perspective, right? The industry want to access new ideas. They want to identify talents. They want to, and often they don't have the opportunities to work with a wide range of people from different students with a wide range of diverse background. And students, they want to have, they want to learn about possibilities. So what careers are available there? What are the right ones for me? They need opportunities to practice these skills, to apply the knowledge, and also experiment to learn about their strengths, their weakness, and the options. And students today, they learn differently. So they need a learning environment that excites them. And also they want to engage in work that has a purpose, and that they really excel when they are motivated. And from an academics point of view, we clearly see the need to support and empower our students to get ready for exciting and increasingly complex professional environment. And also, we do also want to develop relationship with industry and try to work together in research projects and other engagement and try to solve problems. And this really brings us together to the Sandbox model. So what we try to achieve here in the Sandbox approach is we try to co-design a meaningful task and bring that back to the classroom. Traditionally, when students, we have a small group of elite students, they may have internships in a part of a program, then they know a lot about a particular industry practice, they can solve problems that way. But for the mass majority of students in our program, they don't have that opportunity. And what we try to do is to give students this opportunity at scale by working collaboratively with industry to identify a challenge that industry face, and then we can co-create a solution so the industry partners, academics, and students can have this ownership of this problem, and we can design a solution for this. And the experience basically starts with the lecture in a particular course, work with industry representatives who also the problem owners. And we identify a real world challenge that are relevant both to the industry needs as well as the course learning objectives. And then we convert that challenge into a scientific assessment, often, for example, a group project, the student can work together. And once the assessment and the course design is completed, it is about how we engage all the three stakeholders in the process of solving this challenge. And there are a range of learning activities and industry touch points that can be designed to suit the different needs of industry as well as the course. For example, if the different level of the course and if a course is disciplinary specific, etc. And even after this highly co-creative engagement process, the Sandbox experience doesn't stop there, because great things happen when you put the right people together. That trilateral relationship often continues. They continue to grow after the engagement, from having the industry mentors to evaluate students' work, provide feedback, to employment opportunities, and further collaboration between the academics and the industry. So this model, we started about 2 years ago and now get used in multiple schools, in multiple courses at UNSW Business School. And more than 2,000 students have completed the course using the Sandbox model. And we are privileged to have 19 industry partners sponsor us, and over 90 industry representatives actually help us to provide mentoring and consulting and help students and give them feedback to help them to design those things. And I listed a few high-profile industry sponsors there. That includes, large corporations, as well as consulting companies, government agencies, research think tank, as well as not-for-profit organizations. So we look at a wide range of challenges in marketing, information system, as well as in the retirement space. And our students have created close to 400 unique solutions to address 40 different real-world challenges. And this program itself has led us to many awards that are recognized at the university level as well as national level. So now I'd like to share with you some of the examples how we do this in our course and to bring that retirement sandbox to our students. So I guess the best course to try this, that's the course Hazel and I created about 10 years ago. And David and Shang, probably the first wave of the postgrad student actually sit in the course, and they're the perfect people actually we approach when we try to think about this, what are these parts we try to engage when we want to try this. So you can see here, this course, we have both the undergrad and postgrad version. We have 120 students in the undergrad, 18 students in postgrad, and that includes research students. And we engage with 2 industry partners, Aware CEPAR. The challenge here is how can we engage young members and help them to save more for retirement? And the second challenge is provided by the Conexus Institute and Super Consumers Australia. And the challenge here is how can we design a better retirement income projection? So as you can see here, we have an account statement provided by Superfund and UniSuper here. They often give us a projection, but is there something we can do better to communicate that account balance as well as the risk involved in this? So those are the 2 projects we designed in this course as a group assignment for students to do. And the student will work in a group of 4 or 5. They self-select into a group, and then they choose. They have a choice to choose, are they going to do challenge 1 or challenge 2? They can choose one of those challenges. And the way we design that in the assessment task is we put this as a group assessment that worth 20% of the course marks. And to help students to continuously work on this, we specifically designed the different deliverables for students to direct them to focus on the delivery of or the design of the solution. So we decompose this into two parts. The first part is the formative parts that students have milestones. It's not performance-based. We just want them to do the task, share the experience, and learn from that process. And then we have the summative part, which the students submit at the end. And that's something we're going to come in and evaluate. And you can see here, the way we design the summative part, we do not ask students to provide a 20-page report, because nowadays no one read a 20-page report. We design this and say, you 4 or 5 students work as a group. You're a startup company. You're basically going to pitch to one of the large industry partners here about your idea. And the way you pitch it is to use a series of the like close to real life kind of pitch deliverables. You have a 1-minute summary video, a 10 minutes more detailed solution video that is accompanied by a project summary with all the references and a poster or infographic so that's easier for people to actually understand your idea. And to support that, we designed the formative task that helps students to actually build up their design over this 7-week process. As you can see that the task we asked them to do in the formative tasks mirrors what they need to do when they need to submit at the end. And the students have 5 milestones from week 2 to week 9, and they can choose any 4 out of the 5 to complete. And we add a problem statement here to ask students to think about the scope of this. And the way we want students to do this is we don't want students to complete the task and then just we're the only people to see it. We want to set up a community so students can learn from each other as well as receive feedback from industry partners. So what we do here is we ask students to design, like for example, a pitch video, and then they're going to share that video to all the people in the classroom. And here is an example of a student pitch. As you can see, students actually go to conduct some extensive survey and try to understand this problem.
We understand that the biggest problem is that too many young people are not contributing to their super, knowing well enough that super will not be enough to sustain them in their retirement. And reading the academic literature, the industry statements out there, we were able to narrow this down to 2 key components. The first is disengagement, and the second is a barrier to understanding about superannuation. We conducted a survey to explore people's attributes towards superannuation, and the first thing we noticed was that people want to engage with their super more. They want it to feel rewarding if it is personalized. And the second thing we noticed is, regardless of educational level, regardless of age, that people believe overwhelmingly that there's a big barrier to understanding the impacts of superannuation and why contributions matter. And as a result, our strategy revolves around addressing these 2 components.
So as you can see here, the student actually conduct a survey to cover about 80 people in the age group they need to address, at 18 years old to 25 years old. And once they produce a video like that, and they share that on a forum, and all the other teams can see it. So all the other students can actually use that as part of their design process as well. And then what we ask them to do is we ask the student to vote which team they believe that provide the best solution for the pitch video, the poster, etc. As you can see here, students actually voted there and then provide feedback to each other. And after that, we create a league table to identify the top 3 or the top 4 best solutions identified by all the students in the class. And then we share that with industry partners. So we send email to Shang and David and say, this is this week's milestone. We have 4 posters or 4 1-minute videos. You can have a look. And our industry partners often get back to us with quite detailed feedback, which we can share with the students. That means we incorporate the industry partners' feedback along the way when we design this whole process. And students can incorporate that in their design. And this thing continues. So students really find that these milestone things help them to engage and break down into bite size, help them to develop the solutions at the end. And the things our students created is actually quite impressive. I want to highlight a few things. These are the infographic students identified. For example, this team, they try to use a $1 up approach and a $1 campaign, try to educate members as well as have automatic saving component. And this group of students identified that over 60% of the young people actually engage in some kind of sports activity. So maybe the best way to capture them is in a gym membership or some kind of sports activities you can get their attention. That's for challenge 1. And for challenge 2, you can see some of the students identified, they can use a more visual kind of approach to disclose that information and try to describe how to communicate that information about account balance to members. And here is a great example that our students provide for challenge 1 on how to engage young members and help them to save more, which highlighted how students can use evidence-based approach to incorporate what they learned in the course, as well as the recent research findings in developing their solutions, and how to turn this design into a fully working mobile app in less than 2 months. And we actually give students a good challenge that they have to describe all the things in a very short period of time. So let's see what student be able to share with us in 4 minutes.
Briefly, I will introduce our solution before Richard talks more in depth later in this presentation. We propose a feature within Aware Super's mobile app showing members the equivalence between making voluntary contributions and the value of discretionary consumer items our target demographic will see as desirable during retirement. Now Jaden will discuss the academic evidence.
There are two main areas of academic research that underpin the development of our solution as a mechanism to engage the younger generation with their retirement. The first of which is related to financial literacy. There is a well-documented link between higher levels of financial literacy and more active retirement planning. However, our target demographic has been identified as having relatively poor financial literacy, while a majority also self-reported as considering themselves as having adequate knowledge in the area. This suggests that robust education may be ineffective for addressing our problem. By presenting the information in terms of tangible assets of desire, we are implicitly conveying financial concepts in a form that requires no prior knowledge from the user. Evidence shows that showing projected outcomes of one's superannuation account can actually increase voluntary contributions. Our solution provides this in a form that is both understandable and relatable to the group, making it more effective. The second component is drawn from the fields of neurology and psychology to help address the strong present bias when making decisions with a long-term payoff structure that is prevalent in this group and many others. The very nature of our solution will cause users to intimately think about their future. By expressing outcomes in terms of tangible items, users will envision this future in a far more specific way compared to if we used financial terms. This act of future imagination in relation to the present can actually create a neural process known as episodic prospection that has been shown to lessen present bias when discounting future payoffs, and in some cases even skew that bias towards future payoffs. This process will cause the users to establish an emotional connection with their future self, an action which has been shown to positively influence long-term savings behavior.
So now that you better understand how we're going to tackle that problem, as Andrew said, let's go run through a demo. So I hear there's this new feature in Aware Super's app. So I'd rather go check it out. So I just go open up the app and then I'll go click on the feature. And if I take a look here, it looks like it's about voluntary contributions. All right, so let's continue. And okay, so I'm an apprentice, 22 years old, and I earn about $400 a week. And that's because I do contractual work, so I don't really know how much I earn in the full year, right? And I can see that there's a few things I can start doing today, and it looks like I'm going to sacrifice a few things. So let's say I'll spend less nights out at the bar, and then I can choose how long I'm going to do this for. So let's say 5 years, right? And if I click calculate, wow, I can see that there's this thing called government co-contributions where I can earn an extra $500 for free. That sounds pretty good, and I think it's especially great because all this information is in one place as opposed to scattered around. And okay, so if I click calculate again, and all right, so I can see that my super increased by $5,000. Wow. And what does that mean in retirement? Well, it looks like in retirement, I could enjoy like a vacation in Thailand, or maybe if I just want to stay in Australia, I could enjoy Netflix for another 250 months. That's about 20 years. But then I don't really understand how, my voluntary contributions turned into $5,000. Well, it looks like this is because of compounding interest. And if I read a bit more, it looks like if I leave my money in my super, it can accrue more than if I just left it in my bank account. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. But then, I still want to save up for my first home. And if I put my money into my super, I can't really actually withdraw anything. But then if I scroll down a bit, I can see there's this thing called First Home Super. And if I go check it out, it looks like I can see that, I'm still able to save money into my super, but still have the ability to withdraw. So that sounds like the kind of thing for me.
So as you can see here, right, if that's what a third year and fourth year be able to do in 2 months, what are the great things we can do if we can give them the meaningful task and we can encourage them to solve all this problem together with us. And this actually leads to some great outcome for us. We can see we have a great media coverage provided by David there, as well as we have 2 leading teams. They're doing challenge 1. They get invited to come to present to the Aware Super member growth leadership team. And for challenge 2, ASIC actually invited the top performing student group to send their solutions to ASIC's Superannuation Financial Services and Wealth group. So we can see the student work get recognized by industry partners as well as other parties there. And from students' perspective, they love this exercise. They think this really helped them to learn, and they really appreciate that it's a meaningful challenge for them to do. They enrich their experience, and also they increase their interest in this subject. And they identified that the support from academics, their peers, as well as industry partners help them to learn, and they actually improve their employability skills like presentation, teamwork, solving problems. And here's some of the student comments. They mentioned that this is far more interesting and engaging assessment compared to a lot of other assessment they do, because they actually feel relevant, they can engage, they can help them to develop these skills. And that also leads to some of the changes we want to see from our students. Like in this case, the student said after this course, they actually found how much super fund they have, how much super they have in their account, switch the superannuation fund, update the asset allocation, made a core contribution. And we can see that actually leads to some of the actions, which a lot of things we try to talk about here. How can we engage them? And it doesn't stop there. We also see students in this case, for example, they believe that previously when the parents talk about retirement and investment, they feel like it's not part of my conversation. But now the student actively try to participate in this discussion, even try to persuade their parents to get a life annuity, for example. And we also see many students tell us that they've never realized that superannuation is actually such an interesting space to work in. And many students say that I really want to consider working in a superannuation fund. And this is probably the best one to conclude my part of the presentation. The students actually feel that they have a responsibility to help the industry to solve this problem, so they become a proper owner themselves. And now I'll pass on to our industry partner representatives to share with you their experience in this process. So David and Shang, we're very privileged to have you here. So I guess I start with my first question: why did you support the Sandbox program in the first place? So maybe David, you can start.
Sure, thanks, Kevin. Great presentation. Really brought it to life. I'd always say, my role, we're motivated to contribute and have impact, and so you see this as a really good opportunity there. Love working with smart, vibrant students, and then we had a particular desire to invest, give students exposure to consumer-centred project work. So that's why in our particular projects we partnered with Super Consumers Australia, so that when students go out to industry, they're able to think through a consumer framing as well, which we think is really important.
Thank you, Dave. Shang?
Thanks, Kevin. First of all, from a personal perspective, I see the course very valuable, and I can see it will be a very enjoyable and interesting process as a student to go through this, because I just graduated from the course not many years ago, not far away from that. From the organization's perspective, we see it's great value in the sense that we get really valuable insights to a business challenge, and some of the insights actually better to coming from a freshman, like a uni student, than someone already working in the industry for quite a period of time, because their mindset are closer to the customers or the consumers that we're serving. And also importantly, that is free and doesn't require too much time commitment. I know that we're talking about value, but this is important from a sponsor's perspective as well. It also aligns perfectly with our corporate value of doing well, doing good. It's such important to get uni students actually understand some basics of superannuation, because it can make a life-changing difference. For example, the students who doing our challenge last year all know that $1 they contribute today will worth $4 when they retire, and that's a good deal.
Thank you. So how have you found the Sandbox experience as an industry partner? The Shang, you may want to get started this time.
We found it pretty good overall. It's mainly because the outputs from the program are very well structured, and they are in a shape that is very easy to communicate with stakeholders and share on social media. As Kevin mentioned, they're not long report. Like we can share the students' work with our management team, and they don't take ages to absorb the information. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, probably, Kevin, the only thing I'd add there is that I think the staged approach to outputs really makes it easy for industry partners. You haven't overloaded people, and it's all spread out through a term. And I've got to say, just working with really smart, engaged students starts to make you feel 10 years younger. So that's been a nice aspect as well.
Great. That's also the reason why I want to work with our students as well. So was it difficult to create a sandbox topic, Deb, from your point of view?
I would say you have to take the time to invest into getting the topic right, because there's many high-level topics, but you have to come up with a topic that's really practical for students to deliver something within the appropriate timeframes. And so there is a bit of, you have to definitely put a little bit of time into that, but there's so many important topics around that have important consumer outcomes that the list is there. You just have to work through and shape it up the right way.
Shang, how did you find that at the topic design kind of stage?
Yeah, I totally agree with David. There's so many topics you can ask students to help you with, but you want to really put some thinking into which topics are, is going to maximize the value out of this program. You want a topic so that students, with reasonable efforts and research activities, they can give valuable insights on the topic. And you also want a topic so that the topic itself can benefit from the fresh mindset from the students. The contribution-wise was an example. And also you want the topic to provide the whole experience, to provide valuable experience to the students so that we will ultimately benefit them from getting a job in the industry.
Thank you. I think that's definitely something we see as well, because we have our students, for example, in this course, we have students coming from 20 different combined degrees. They do law, marketing, finance, actuarial studies, computer science. So it's having this great group of students working together. They can actually have a very creative solution there. So I guess my last question is, would you recommend the Sandbox program to other potential employers or other partners?
Sure, that's a yes. Without any further words.
Yeah, I strongly agree. And I'd probably say firms that strive for win-win-win situations, or triple bottom line type situations, that aligns with really strong firm culture. And I think if you have that strong culture, like Shang was saying with Aware Super, then this type of project is a natural attraction to you. So hopefully more firms are now aware of this. And if any of those firms need a hand, then Conexus Institute's there to assist them as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think for any potential partners, if you'd like to try something and collaborate with us, please feel free to contact me. I think we're very open to have many other courses as well. We can implement this particular process.
I think Amanda Ra from Australian Silver already has started to be interested.
Great. So thank you. Hazel, I'll hand back to you. And I think our student, Richard Liu, which is the great person like Steve Jobs and present the applications, also just joined us after he finished his meeting. So Richard, if you're here, please feel free to turn on your camera and we can open the floor for any questions from the audience. I'll hand back to you, Hazel.
Yeah, I'd really like to thank Kevin for his presentation, and for David and Shang, and also Richard for being part of the presentation as well. And it seems to me that some of our policymakers could very well do with some of these fresh ideas of our students as well. So thank you very much for this session. So please join me in thanking all of our participants.